All right, here we are.
Once again.
Yeah.
Podcast number 1 of 1. Now, I don't know what this is, number 5 or 6 now, but today's a special one because it's a first live call-in podcast.
It's awesome.
Which is kind of cool. I didn't even know we had that technology until today.
Those guys are magical.
Well, we're going to see how well it works.
We'll see, yeah.
That's right.
And, so you guys need to call in so that we can test it out, and it'll be kind of a neat deal. Yeah. We have Supervisor Patrick Jones with us today.
Thank you guys for having me. It'll be nice to have a live. There's no retakes or anything, so this is as real as it gets.
And we don't have like the 5-second bleep either, you know.
Yeah.
So just let it fly.
Yeah.
Mr. Page. How you doing, Ken? Ken, can you hear me?
Ken, you there? Ken Page.
Hey, Ken, how are you? This is Carlos, and then I have Woody next to me. I got your text earlier. Good stuff. Had a great graduation. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been great. We had family in town, and it's just been really a cool time, so. I'm not sure what that beep is, but Ken, what question do you have for us or comment? He's here.
I am here. Well, I tell you, we'll just send Carlos down there, and I think we'll get this squared away right quick. No, I think you guys are on the right start. And, you know, what I observed here in Shasta County is hundreds of people came forward with the same things that you're talking about last year, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And they were backing me up, and we were like-minded. And that's, in essence, what you're going to need to be doing as well, is getting those people from texting to start acting and start showing up at those board meetings, and then start taking a more aggressive role to force your supervisors to listen to the people, because that's what we're seeing all over the north end of the state, and probably the whole state, is the supervisors and elected officials everywhere. They're comfortable, they're set in their ways, they're listening to the illegal government mandate, Newsom's mandate, and they're not listening to the people. And here in Shasta County, we've had enough. And we're doing something about that. And within less than 24 hours, hundreds of Redding and Shasta County residents will be going out and circulating petitions to remove our first board of supervisor. And then it'll be followed by another one and another one. And so what we're doing here, you can do there, and you've sounds like you've got the 300 to 400 people that's necessary to do it. So you're on your way. You just need a person like yourself to organize, to be the leader, to stand up and to lead that group.
Well, we are there. We've already filed our application. We're looking for the 20 for each district that need to sign off. We have a PAC started, and we're strategizing on getting the people in. we actually hired a guy that does the signing of getting the ballots and all that. But the question that I had for you was, you're sitting on the inside, and I get the sense that they're afraid to say anything to the others. You know, they have this, I don't know, whatever you would call that. It's like nobody's willing to speak up within the group.
Well, that's a
They'll talk
personality
to us
deal, I
outside.
think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the
What's
same. It's the same here. I mean, we've just been electing the wrong people, and you know, I've always spoken up, and I take some criticism for that. But I'm fine with being elected or not. I've ran many races. I've won some. I've lost some, and you know, I'm not leaving my county. I'm going to fight for my county. We just have to do a better job vetting these candidates and electing the right people that are really going to stand up. And most of them are just simply going to go with the flow. They're, you know, when you get in, and you're right, I am on the inside. I've been on the inside for 8 years at City Hall as well. And they get you from the time that you're first elected, they get you over into the new team. And it's not the people, it's city or county staff. They get you to start thinking in that manner. And it's you know, that's what the League of California Cities is about. That's what the League of California Counties is about, is to get you to not think the way that you have been or what you were, but to get you into the team of the government itself. And, you know, for Shasta County, that's 2,100 people. And their idea is you're supposed to work for those 2,100. Well, my idea is I work for 180,000, not a small group of people. And, you know, that's where the debates, you know, having a quality debate during election time and having 6 or 7 real debates, not forums. Anytime you hear a forum, throw that out. Get a real debate so you can see who's really ready to serve. You can see it after a debate or two, who's ready.
Well, and the good news for you is it sounds like your chairman is the one that may be supporting you guys. So he can move things along, where the chairman of our board would not even allow things to be spoken about. So that's a big,
You know, one of the
deal.
things I did.
Now, when,
No, go ahead.
as an individual that's sitting in that seat, and now we just got some of the, you know, money records recently that we've found where some of the money has gone, and then the data on the health records. We've met with the health director, and he has not released, or we've tried everything to get the health records, and also asking them to be transparent on whether they've reviewed the emergency order to rescind it. And we've just been banging away trying to get that. We have it video recorded, asking them. And so on the flip side, if a person, he flips or moves over, doesn't he feel he's hurting himself, or like he hasn't done it in the past? I mean, it's almost he has to come out and wake up and say something.
Yeah.
You know,
Ken, I appreciate your question and your comment. I know you guys are doing a lot of good work, and maybe we can all jump on a conference call here, but we do have to take another caller here. I appreciate you.
Thank
all right,
you.
brother.
Thanks, Ken. Stay in it,
you,
man.
man.
all
Thank
your
you.
work is incredible. Keep going. Love it.
Thanks, Ken.
All right.
You know, I can hear his frustration.
So I met
Yeah.
that gentleman at the Glad Tidings Church. Awesome dude. I mean, stayed open the whole time. Just a really, really great guy. And he's reached out to me a few times, and he wants to come up here and just kind of latch onto what we're doing because they're doing the exact same thing down there.
Well, and I think
So,
his question was to find the hot button to turn that guy that he has his ear, to just turn him to be able to get more information, to be able to get more in depth of the inner workings, because he's trying to work in the blind.
I think once
Trying
a
to flip him a little
supervisor
bit.
sees he's got a lot of support, it's way easier for him.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, being an elected official twice in the city and here in the county, they don't want you to get a lot of information out to the public. Now, I've been criticized for many years for getting information out. We used to get documents at the city that said confidential, confidential, confidential. They didn't want the public to see it, but yet it's not attorney-client privileged, and it really wasn't confidential. They just don't want you to hear about it. Yeah. And I would make sure that those got out. And of course, you get
we're gonna
Well,
need
and that's what
a lot
he's
more
looking
like
for.
you.
Right. So how do you turn somebody that's not necessarily
Well,
willing
and
to?
I think once they're in there for a while, it's really hard to turn someone at that point. I think you have to
All
start
right, let's
from
take the next caller. Hey, Bruce. Bruce, can you hear me?
Yes,
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Good. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
What can we do for you?
I just thought I was going to listen in on what you're going to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, we're just taking calls and questions right now, you know, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have, or if you have a comment to participate.
No, maybe
with.
a comment. One comment would be it'd be nice if we could get that Sheriff Mack to Reading to talk about constitutional counties.
Sheriff Richard Mack has come to Shasta County twice, to the city of Reading. I went to dinner with him the first time and got him, around town. In fact, he was at the Reading Gun Show trying to sell his books out in the lobby, and the promoter called me and asked me what we thought of this guy. And this was back in, I want to say, around 2000, 1999, 2000. And
yeah, I think I went to an event when he was here.
Yeah, and he did two different ones. One was at the fairgrounds later, or at the rodeo grounds, excuse me. And the first one, he just came into town. And but this producer asked me, they said, hey, should we allow him to sell his books here? We've heard he's a little bit radical. And I said, well, I've heard that too. I said, but, he sued the Clinton administration and won on the Brady bill, so he can't be too radical. I said, if it was me, I'd let him sell his books here. And but I didn't know the guy. But I got off work and I ran over to the Holiday Inn where he was signing his books, and I listened to the guy for 5 minutes, and I said, my gosh, this guy's a patriot. The national media is calling him a radical, and this guy's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's not going to disobey his oath of office. He followed it. He knew the Brady bill was unconstitutional, and he fought it all the way to the Supreme Court and won. And they call this guy radical. And I was really disappointed in myself because I'd repeated that to someone that, I'd heard that he was a radical. But the reality was this guy was a patriot. And it really started to wake me up as to the information that we're hearing from the media is not only not true, it's completely not true and totally false. And so I felt so bad for Sheriff Richard Mack. I started taking him around. I took him to the gun club, met him and introduced to people and started showing people that, hey, we've got a real patriot here. This is a real constitutional sheriff. Now, unfortunately, in California, we have a variety of different laws that are different, unfortunately, even in the California Constitution, that limit the authority of the sheriff like other sheriffs would have. In most counties in the United States, your sheriff is your supreme top law enforcement officer, superseded by none. Unfortunately, not quite the case in California. When Sheriff Richard Mack came back, Sheriff Tom Bazinko wouldn't even go to the rodeo grounds to see the guy.
Terrible.
It was pretty bad, and I was disappointed within our sheriff for not coming out and respecting the good work that Sheriff Richard Mack does. I really like the guy. I wish he could do more for us here, but he does preach to the sheriffs around the nation. Don't take your power for granted. County by county, that's how we take our country back, and the sheriffs in most states play a huge role if they exercise their power. And it's kind of what we're doing here in Shasta County by doing this recall movement. Is taking it back one county at a time, and that's the way we're going to affect some change. But I thank you for your call.
You bet.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks. Yeah, and that's great. That was, I think, 1974 when that changed, correct, in California, where the Attorney General became the head law enforcement officer for the
right. And so, of course, you've
county.
seen what kind of attorney generals we have and how they're picked and selected. And so we're in a tough shape here in California. And but I mean, Sheriff Richard Mack, when he took on the Brady bill and the Clinton administration, only 2 other sheriffs in the entire country joined in on that. Mm-hmm. And he fought that. He put his life savings on the line, and he took that all the way to the Supreme Court. They heard it, and he won. And the Brady bill is considered to be unconstitutional, and that was the one major gun bill that the Clinton administration's passed in 1994. And it thankfully has expired in 2004, and Congress didn't take it up, so we don't have to deal with it in some places. But most states simply don't abide by the Brady bill.
And the sheriff's topic, that's something that gets brought up a lot, in California especially, because we depend in these counties. We depend on these sheriffs, to be the barrier between us and the state. We do have our board of supervisors who, if they were doing their job, would be a great buffer. But we expect the sheriff to either enforce or not enforce, the things that we feel are unconstitutional. So
absolutely.
Have you had conversations with our current sheriff about a lot of what's going on?
I met up with Sheriff Eric McGreeny at a CRP, a California Rifle and Pistol Association meeting, and he had some discussions there. But I really haven't had a lot of interaction with Sheriff McGreeny. I probably haven't warmed up to him as much as, say, other sheriffs in the past because he wasn't elected, he was appointed, and I didn't like that whole situation of appointing a sheriff. I think that is something in this county We have a long history of electing and vetting our sheriff. It's an important position, and it's something that the people should be voting on, and we didn't get a vote for Eric. And for me to be a true sheriff, you have to earn it, and you have to win that election. And so until he does so, that would make me feel much better.
What's your
Especially
prediction?
the election was so close between Bosanko and Green. It was dang near a runoff.
Right.
It just seemed to me that,
Well, and
you
it
know,
was
it would've
suspicious because we didn't think that Tom was going to run that last time, and all of a sudden he runs, and he does win barely. He doesn't run a great race. That's why it was so close. And then within a short time period, he announces he's resigning or he's retiring,
Right.
which then allows the board to appoint or to have a special election. They should have, so to me it was almost a setup in that the board and the past sheriff concocted this thing.
Sure.
And so it didn't feel right, and my gut was that this was wrong. And, and so the sheriff, I think today has put himself in a difficult position because of that. And, there is some questions going on right now within the sheriff's department. And I think in a few months, the public will start hearing more about that. And maybe we can get to an election and vet a sheriff that's really going to stand with the people more. Today, more than ever, we need a sheriff that is going to listen to the people and respect and protect the people of Shasta County. That is the job.
I
Do we have
wanted.
another- Go ahead.
Do we got a caller? Or good. I wanted to see if you had any bombshells for us today, because
Well, I don't know.
What
the
size?
news from Mary Rickert and some of them is you're not a good secret keeper. So we were hoping
I have a heck of a
informant,
time with secrets, man. Don't tell me something if you don't want me to keep a
So
secret.
how about just that in and of itself? What is this mentality of the secrecy, and how are you obviously feel it's the right thing to do to bring all the information, taxpayers' dollars,
Transparency.
all those things as public servants. You obviously are wired that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, that's part of your frustration. You want colleagues to do the same thing, but just go into that. Where does your mind go?
Well, for me, I've worked in a small family business my entire life, and there's lots of struggles with that. And some years you don't do too well, and some years you do better and you struggle. And sometimes I can barely afford to get gas in my car, and so you have those kind of day-to-day struggles here in Shasta County. And when I was a kid, I wished both of my socks matched the same color half the time. And so I come from meager upbringing, and and then I see stuff that happened, at City Hall, and I see stuff currently that happens at the board, and they are purposely not allowing information to get out. And I think we should be proud of everything that we do and put everything that we do on the front page of the paper. If it's right, the people will back you up. But if you have to keep it a secret and hide on certain things, that means the public is not going to like it. Now, I realize that obviously certain things, labor negotiations, and there's attorney-client privileged information that you would keep quiet for the benefit of the taxpayer in negotiations and these types of things. You don't want to play your hand, and certainly in legal matters where you have lawsuits, you have to keep things quiet. And so those things I certainly understand, and things that are attorney-client privileged, I keep those quiet. But when you have other things that come up, we need to let the public know. A good example of that is right now. So for next week on June 8th, the next board meeting, not only do we have a 675-page agenda that needs to be read and understood and voted on, but we also have a 600-page budget that's going to be voted on and approved at the same time. So 1,200 pages to be read in less than a week. The public isn't going to get to understand that before we get to, and it's not going to be well vetted. And so why not have that budget out a month in advance so that everybody can really get down to it? Well, because they don't want you to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, because you're not going to like how some of this money is being spent. And
This is Terry Raposa.
Terry Raposa.
Terry,
Hello.
what's going on, Terry?
Well, not a whole lot. Just wanted to bring up a couple of things about the sheriff situation.
Yes.
First of all, the main thing about the sheriff situation is that in Article 5, Section 13 of the California Constitution, it specifically states that the sheriff isn't the supreme law enforcement officer of the land here or in the county. And what it does state is that the Attorney General, and that was amended November 4th, 1974, that the Attorney General basically has jurisdiction over cases and over anything that a sheriff would do or any other law enforcement official, including and also the DA. And the Attorney General can enter into a position of saying that he or she can, if they don't believe that a law is being enforced in their opinion, and that's the hard part. That's, I believe, is probably about the fifth or sixth sentence in that particular article. If they don't believe that something is, in their opinion, following the law that has been put forward in California, then they can enter in, even into a court case, enter in and take the place of the district attorney and also be the chief law enforcement officer. Now, that's something that's unique to our state, which gives us a difficult position with a quote constitutional sheriff, which every sheriff should be constitutional, I would believe. What do you guys think?
Well, Terry, and we were talking about that before you called in, and so we covered a lot of those things with regards to the Attorney General for California and truly we aren't going to get the constitutional sheriff that we really want.
But we can't. But we are able to do that if we utilize more things in the Constitution. And if we utilize the California Constitution, we can't help the sheriff. We can't expect him to do everything on his own, but we can't help him by using Article 3, Section 1 of the California Constitution, which specifically states that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and California is an inseparable part of that. So if, in fact, and I know this is a lot of numbers, I'm not trying to have people pull their eyelashes out. It's a lot of numbers, but it really is what it is. In Article 20 of the California Constitution, it specifically states that the people who, and you know this, Patrick, because you took this oath, and that's where you took it for the California Constitution, that you specifically take an oath to the California Constitution and the United States Constitution. However, in Article 3, Section 1 of the California Constitution, it states that the United States Constitution trumps, no pun intended, trumps the California Constitution. So if, in fact, a sheriff is seeing something that is law that may not be legal or may not be lawful as being real law according to the Constitution, he or she can stand against that. And that's where I think the sheriffs have failed, especially in all this stuff with COVID and everything that's happened as far as people having their business shut down, et cetera.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Terry.
Terry, always good to hear from you, and thanks for the
We got
insight.
a line of calls, so we're going to roll on. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Terry.
We'll see you Sunday morning. We have another caller on the line.
Well, that was
Terry's always a great encyclopedia.
Well, and
for-
talking
for that
about
kind of
secrets,
thing.
I remember a situation that happened back at City Hall. Our staff had come to us and said that we were running out of gas, which that's how we run our gas turbines in the city of Redding, our power plant, and we needed some new gas purchases. And the smaller $10,000 and $20,000 gas purchases weren't available, but this $400 million gas purchase was available. And of course, we said $400 million. That's not exactly. We can't hardly write a check for that. And they said, well, this is different this time. You only pay for it as you need it, and if you don't need it, you don't pay for it. Which later I found out that was a lie. We bought $400 million worth of gas. And subsequently thereafter, a new hire that had come into the city of Redding, his name was Michael Brown, he started raising some concerns about this gas purchase. And in fact, he became a whistleblower, and he said, you paid twice the market rate. And your number 2 or 3 guy in the utility, Tim Nichols, is taking bribes from Shell Oil, which is where we got the $400 million worth of gas. Now, city staff quickly said, this guy, 1, he's not a good fit, you're fired, and 2, you're not credible. And that's what I was told. And so I didn't know any better at the time. I thought, well, the city says he's not credible, he's not credible. A few more months later down the road, I get an anonymous email from the FPPC that Tim Nichols, this same guy that was part of the Redding Electric Utility, had been caught taking a Rolex watch from Shell Oil and was fined $5,500.
Holy smokes.
So this became interesting. So this was one of the complaints that Michael Brown had showed. Now I'm starting to think this guy's credible because one of the things he was talking about is now becoming true. But I'd seen down on the bottom that it had been CC'd over to the Record Searchlight 3 weeks earlier, but nothing in the paper. Now I can guarantee you a fine of this size from somebody high up in the electric utility and concerning Shell Oil Company would be in the paper somewhere. Sure. So I called up the newspaper and complained, and I said, you're covering this clearly. This should be a story, and it's not. And we got into it, and I told him I better see it on the front page tomorrow, which it was. Down at the bottom, it said, city manager comes on board and says, Tim Nichols paid this fine in a timely manner, and we're just so proud and thankful that we have great city employees, and that was the story.
Wow.
So when you read a story like that, and so it's like, that just made it seem like we have great city employees. This guy got caught taking a bribe from Shell Oil for lying to council, and the ratepayers are now paying in excess of $200 million in a gas purchase, and this was one purchase. Now, that's bad enough. I mean, that's really bad, really. But it was part of a $1.5 billion project, and Santa Clara and Modesto got the other half at the same price. So you can only imagine how much Shell got involved in this. And so that type of corruption happens. I don't know where Michael Brown is today. He should be in hiding by about now. I talked about it quite a bit over time, and nothing. The Record Searchlight won't print anything. Channel 7 won't print anything. I took it to the grand jury. They wouldn't report on it because they said there was an active investigation. That was many years ago, but they would never take it up. So it gets tolerated. And it really taught me a lot that something is seriously wrong here. And that's what I knew. If I had not received that anonymous email, I wouldn't have known much of any of it. And that's from an elected official, mind you.
And that's just one thing you found out about. I mean, how many other things happened that we
Correct.
didn't find out about?
Absolutely.
Well, and I think more and more keeps coming. That's interesting that as our whole county gets behind wanting true transparency, not filtered, here's what you get to see on a plate, right? The raw stuff that we can get.
We have another caller on the line.
We get
here.
more and more people coming.
Who do we
forward.
have?
So,
right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
I wonder if she works for Shell.
Hey, Karina.
Hey,
How are you?
I have a question. I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I have a question for Mr. Jones. On episode 3, have you seen that yet? I imagine you have.
Oh, yeah, I was in it.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't know if you had seen it yet. But there was a specific question I had regarding when that doctor from Mercy Medical Center, who was basically, my understanding was that he kind of ran the whole Mercy Medical Center.
Probably Dr. Danuka.
When he came to the board meeting, and right at the end of his 3 minutes, he said that he had a plan that could help Shasta County.
Yes.
And then they cut him off.
Correct.
Did they do any follow-up with him? And if so, where is the plan and what was suggested?
Yeah, so that was Dr. Danuka, and I'm friends with Doc, as we call him, and a smart guy, and CEO of one of the hospitals here, and has got a great reputation here in town. And so he did come before the board. And, when I was mayor of the city of Reading, when someone would come and speak and was clearly credible and had some important information, I didn't care about the 3 minutes. I'm going to be there all day or in those years all night. Let him speak. If it takes 3 or 4 minutes, that's fine. What the chairperson, Mary Rickard, did at that time was just to simply cut him off at 3 minutes, and it was shocking to him. But what it showed is we really don't want to listen to what you have to say.
Right.
We're not interested, and there was no follow-up on that.
There wasn't. So the email, send me an email, they never.
Right, they get tons of emails, but they implemented nothing. They didn't want to hear from him.
And Dr. Danuka said a while back when we met with him, it was pretty interesting. He said, look, I had a plan, I had a 10-part plan that if they would have followed that, we would have gone through this pandemic really fairly unscathed.
Right.
And kept everything open, and people would have been able to run their businesses, and kids would have been in school, but we could have done it safely. And he had a plan that he wanted to submit that was never
That scene
addressed.
from the people that I talked to in the shop, that scene was the one that people were pissed about.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like, I cannot believe.
So that just died right there.
Yeah.
And these
Just
are medical
died with the
doctors.
3-minute
These
cutoff.
are guys who are practicing medicine in our town, who are smart guys, respected in the community.
CEO
Why
of the
wouldn't you want to
hospital.
go to these guys? I mean, if I'm a supervisor and there's a pandemic coming or something that's being sold as a pandemic, I'm getting the smartest doctors in town together. I'm saying, hey guys, how do we do this?
Yeah. You know, and particularly with Dr. Nuka, he has a great story. You know, he came here from India and he didn't have nothing in his wallet, and he really made something. He worked hard. He's very proud to be an American, and he worked hard, you know, to get where he's at, and he's very smart. And so he's a great story. He's a very good doctor. We're lucky to have him here in Redding and Shasta County. And, you know, and this was a failure of the chairman, but she was taught by the previous chair how to control a boardroom, which, being not experienced, this is what happens. And when you have someone that's clearly going to be loud and profane, you give them the 3 minutes, and then you move them on, and you curtail that activity. And then when you have somebody that's sensible, that has good information, you clearly let them finish what they're talking about so that it can get out, and then the whole public can hear that, because it is being archived and you can go back and listen to it. And that's how you create the decorum, and that's how you control your boardroom. But Mary Rickard was not very good at it, and Joe Clemente, the chair right now, is doing the same thing. He doesn't understand why he's lost control of the boardroom.
Yeah, so wouldn't another board of supervisor have been able to maybe say, hey, this is really important, if this is this serious and we care about our constituents and their health, this is a man that we ought to listen to, and if it is as bad as what they were saying it is, this shows a complete lack of care, empathy, or anything actually on the part of caring for their people who voted them in, because this is a man who apparently had a plan that none of us got privy to. Isn't that pretty serious?
Yeah, no,
a problem?
It is a problem, and again, it's because of the lack of experience, and you know, it's clearly that they are treating the public comment period as a liability, if you will, just to get through it. Let's get through the public comment and get to the stuff that we want to get, and these people are just in our way, and you get the sense of that really quickly when you're not listening and paying attention. You know, like Leonard Modi, you know, when he was virtual, you know, turning his computer off, or looking down, playing on his computer, texting Linda or somebody, I don't know, or Mary looking away. You're not paying attention to what the people have to say, and these are the people that we serve. You know, and the least you could do is listen to what people have to say. And, you know, and sometimes they're going to say some very good things, and sometimes they're not, but our job is to listen. And we're there all day, and we're paid to do it. So at least you should listen, and they're not. But these are just a few reasons why 3 of these are going to be recalled. They're not doing their job. They've forgotten who they work for, and they're going to get recalled. And I think we're going to see an exciting summer. I think it's hot right now, and I think it's going to get hotter.
Way hotter.
Yeah,
Well, I hope so.
I think that was just
Karina, thank you for your call.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
No
Karina.
problem.
I think that was such a display of, you know, lack of leadership, because what you're talking about is basic things and how to control. And in a time of so much exception, they couldn't break a 3-minute rule to hear from a CEO of the hospital of our county. One of them. It was just completely blatant. So those that may be questioning recall or not, that's what you're getting. That was the health of the greater Shasta County. You know, that was it. It was in the hand.
But the state knows best, don't they?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we don't even want to hear from the CEO of our local hospital that if you go to the local hospital and you trust them there, you're going to trust them maybe to speak to the board. I mean, so
you know, on another topic of council members and board members not knowing exactly all what happens. I mean, when you go into the admin building for myself, there's these small, skinny, narrow hallways, and I have half the time no idea what's going on behind room number A, B, C, you know, whatever. And, you know, when I first got to City Hall back in 2006, within a few months, we'd learned about and uncovered by the Record Searchlight when we had real investigative reporters, and it was uncovered by Scott Mobley, the last good reporter that paper had, a large sex scandal that went all the way up to the top in City Hall. And it involved several guys and many women, and probably more than we know. And it was there happening while I was there, and had no knowledge of it. And several people got fired, right up to the assistant city manager, and several other people as well. And so, if I can't see that, you know, in these hallways and where they're doing, you know, that's it. It's just the transparency isn't there. And, I was really disappointed in that. It showed bad for the city. I don't think we probably got to the bottom of it when that occurred. Leonard Modi was there at the time, and I don't think we got to the bottom of who was all involved in that. But Scott did the best he could to get information out to the public, and if it hadn't been for that investigative reporter, we'd have never heard about it.
Yeah.
And he was the last one, and after that, they've never touched him since. So you tell me what's going on in the halls, whether it's at 777 West Cypress or 1450 Court Street. Without a quality newspaper doing investigative reportive work, then it's totally left to us and the supervisors. And as this recall moves forward, I think that's why we're seeing them try to stop this process. It feels so strong that they do not want us to really uncover something or something.
Which makes us want to do it even more.
Right. I mean, it's just driving these people to
every
to
time I
work
wanted
harder.
to cool off a little, because we're in this heated fight, right? And every time I wanted to cool off just to catch my breath a little bit for the next battle, I feel like it just makes me want to go so much harder and faster and just really aggressively towards the prize when I start hearing stuff like this. Is because they're making it hard for us to do something that's a mechanism that's constitutional. So if I'm a supervisor and people want to recall me, I'm going to say, go ahead.
Go. And if you get the signatures.
If you get signatures, I'm out.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, then I look really good. I look like the hero. So when you're trying to stop it before it even starts, that makes us just want to push harder, man. And uncover
I was
more
the
stuff.
subject of a recall at City Hall, and I said, okay, that's your constitutional right in California. And so I didn't think anything about it because it's difficult to get signatures.
Sure.
And, I certainly didn't have, $1,000 attorneys and attempting to block, and I didn't have press releases with other board or council members in front of City Hall. So I just find this to be incredibly unusual. And, recently we had several investigators within the DA's office go to the residence of several of the proponents of the notice of intent. I consider this to be harassment. I'm really shocked.
And we're not going to let this happen.
This
we're
is
fighting now.
ridiculous.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
this
Well,
point,
this is not
why-
right.
why is the
you've thrown
DA
a punch
involved?
now. You've thrown a punch, and we've talked about this before, where they want to throw as many punches as they can. But if we respond or reply with just one punch, we're the bullies, we're the bad guys, we're the aggressors, we're the violent ones, we're the insurrectionists, the terrorists, everything they've called us, right? It's all bullshit because they're doing it to us first. All we're doing is minding our own business, being polite, following a mechanism, following the rules. And just because you don't like what we're doing doesn't give you the right to attack us without being attacked.
It's all a
Well, they
smoke.
almost
It's all a
don't.
smoke screen, kind of. They're throwing that up to cover what they're doing. But
Well, I
they're
just
doing
didn't
some
think I
dirty
would
stuff.
see that level, but apparently they're going to go to that level and probably more because there's something and things that they don't want us to see beyond what we already know today. And it's simply more than just a recall. We're going to look at this overall government and from top to bottom, there's not one thing that we're going to leave alone. No. And we're going to make it transparent. And if there's something that's not right, if we can't put it on the front page of the paper, if we had a good one, then it shouldn't be. And I think that's the way we can run government in the future. It'll be a smaller, more efficient government that'll serve the needs of the public twice as good as what it is today.
And if you're sitting right now,
Okay.
if we got a caller. Okay, Emily, give me one. I just want to make one comment. Actually, we'll take the call. Go ahead.
Hi, Emily. How you doing? I'm
good. How are you guys?
Good. Welcome.
I had a question for Mr. Jones regarding the CalPERS program and the debt from that. I've heard that the debt for the CalPERS program is exceeding $1 billion. And I have also heard, Patrick, that you don't take a pension from that. And if that is the case, I was just wondering if you could maybe speak to that and why that's important to you.
Yeah, this is an important issue for me. It's an important for everybody in the city of Redding and in the county. I always felt that we should run a business as well as we can, and so we have to, at the end of the day, in small businesses, we have to manage. We can't have massive debt. You can always take on a little debt, but you pay it off, and you see light at the end of the tunnel. So some 20 years ago, formulas started changing with CalPERS, and we had warned and argued that the city in those years, that's who I was working for then, we can't adapt this formula because it's going to fail. It's going to fail quickly. And their response, the CalPERS board said, you will not have to worry about this for 999 years, that this new formula will be fine. The economy is great, which the economy was great. But then by 2006 and 7, the recession started to hit, and all of a sudden things start going down and we start losing money rapidly. And then it really started to see just how much CalPERS debt started coming around. So for the county today, and again, I've only been on the job for 5 months. And when I first started, I told them I do not want to take the retirement, the CalPERS retirement. They said, well, we don't have a form for that. And I said, well, make one, because I'm not doing it. I'm not taking it. I didn't take it at City Hall, and I'm not going to take it now. I don't want to be a part of a system that's leaving the taxpayers paying for that retirement. And it's not that I didn't want the retirement. I do. And I think county employees deserve a retirement, but not to the excess that it's burdening now on the backs of the taxpayers, aggressively. And so the county has gotten themselves into trouble, like many other counties, and some are so close to insolvency, it's not even funny. So for the county, you have the CalPERS retirement debt and the CalPERS medical debt. We do not have the money to fund these, and so we have to pay it off over time. So they have created a system over the next 30 years, roughly, that if we pay $30 million a year for the next 30 years, we will get this paid off. And when you do so, if all works well, that will be $1 billion. So that's $30 million a year that you're losing right out of the general fund that could have gone towards building a jail, building a mental institution, fixing your roads and infrastructure, and fixing the very problems that we're experiencing right now. They're fixable. But this pension and CalPERS debt is saddling us and stifling us to having the city and the county that we grew up in. I talked to a former supervisor from 30 years ago, and he was talking about, he goes, you're not giving raises, Jones, And I said, yeah, no, I can't. I said, I would like to. And I said, but about the CalPERS debt. And I said, now, you never had to deal with that in your time. You didn't have that level of debt, so you could give raises. I want to give raises too, but how can I when that escalates the problem? I have to fix the problem before I can give raises. And some people deserve some raises, some don't. But before I would give one, we have to get that pension and CalPERS debt under control, and not on the backs of the taxpayers, because that's easy to do, right? Yeah. Hey, just let those guys pay for it. Right. And by and large, the public is unaware of just how much they're paying for these things. $30 million a year for the county.
A lot of fat in them too.
And unfortunately, the pay has risen over time. In years gone by, the county pay was kind of low, but you had these better benefits, right? Well, over time, the pay is up now, the benefits are up, and so now just costs. To give you an idea, we will approve. I won't approve it. I'll vote no on it, but on this next meeting, we have 162 supervisor positions, 162 of them. Their base pay for that group is $12 million, but the benefits are $8 million. And that just lets you know how you would never see that in the private sector. And it's so lopsided, but we've allowed this to happen. And we warned about it some 20 years ago to not get ourselves into this situation. And now we are. And so it's really shocking. And, I turned the pension down. I didn't want it. I just feel better that I'm not a part of something. And so they can't criticize me for not saying, hey, what are you willing to do? Yeah. I give it all up. I'm not asking everybody to give it up, but I'm asking that you're probably going to need to pay a much higher share.
Right on.
Oh, that's good.
It's good information.
I had a question too. Or do we still have the caller? Emily, you still there?
Did we lose a caller?
Yeah, I'm still here. Oh. Yep, that was the answer to my question. Thank you, guys.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Emily.
Bye.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about, that to me, like launching the DA, and I don't know who's funding the attorneys that, trying to battle this recall. I feel like we're blurring some legalities here, using county funds, using these different things. I mean, I don't know how they're funding the attorneys and all that stuff. They talk about transparency and came at the recall
right.
and this docu-series, What's the transparency there? Do you have any detail that you could bring out on that? Because
Yeah, I mean,
wonder.
it's pretty clear to me, and I'll kind of allude to it without saying everything I know. But you know, when you got $1,000 an hour attorney, you better be doing a lot of fundraisers.
Right.
You know, here in Shasta County, which I don't see them doing any. And so clearly there is a lot of money being spent there, and they're not showing us anything. And you know, the Shasta General Purpose Committee is doing their reports correctly. They're being very transparent. They're not trying to hide anything. They'll tell you everything that we've done. We have another fundraiser on the 12th, and we will raise more money, and we will report what needs to be reported at that time. And they're doing it right. They're doing it absolutely right. They've got good people with them. And what I'm seeing here, and again, this is just my gut feeling, and I feel it's as strong as anything that I've ever felt, is that because the possibility of 3 supervisors could change, there's tens of millions of dollars being funneled into various companies, organizations here in Shasta County, and they cannot wait and afford to see any possible changes. There's too much money at stake. And so they're going to protect that. They're not going to just sit idle by and possibly see some changes. They are going to protect their valuable assets. And so take a look at the money. Who's been receiving the funds from the county? And, you know, it's companies like K2 and Hill Country and McConnell Foundation and Northern Catholic Social Services and many others. And when you see who's getting these kinds of monies, almost quasi-government organizations, then you can certainly make some assumptions. When you see Judy Salter and Lee Salter show up to boardroom meetings and speak, that's not by chance. Now, they were the basic creators, if you will, of the McConnell Foundation, and I've had plenty of trouble with McConnell Foundation from my days at City Hall. I have a serious dislike for some of the things that they do. Now, is it okay if you do 2 or 3 good things and then 2 bad things? Can we look the other way? Is that all right? Is that acceptable just because you do a couple good things over here, but a couple bad things over here?
We don't live our life that way in any other
and
faction.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so when you do something bad, no matter what else you've done good, you've lost me at that point. And we have to be good all the time, and we have to be good when no one's looking. And I think now that we're looking, now that Shasta County is looking, people are starting to get nervous. Mm-hmm. And monies will come forward. You'll never probably see the name McConnell Foundation on any of this money. I can guarantee you that. But other people, and if you watch the people in that audience, in that boardroom, if you've been around, all you have to do is start connecting a few dots, and the picture will be fairly clear for you.
That's good info.
Yeah.
Oh, we do.
I think it's Biden, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Alex asked, who funds the Red, White, and Blueprint docu-series?
So right now it's being funded privately by one of the partners in the business. And then we've also had a fundraiser that helped us along a little bit. And if you go on our website, you can see our merchandise, and that helps out quite a bit too. So at this point, we're certainly not making money, but we're doing well enough where we can do stuff like this and help push the football up the field.
Yeah, and I hear people comment on that all the time of like, oh, Zapata's just making all this money off. It's like, no, I made this table. Here it sits.
Yeah.
I'm not making a bunch of money off it. I sit here. It's free volunteer time.
What
This
if we
movement
weren't-
is
what if
not
we
a
weren't
money
doing-
grab.
What if we weren't doing this? Patrick just talked about the reason we're in the mess we're in is because we have no media, right? We have no good media.
Yeah,
and the reason there was a First Amendment was so that they would hold these politicians accountable. Mm-hmm. Well, instead, they're in lockstep with them. And if it wasn't for the recall, we've had to wake back up and not leave it to the media.
Sure.
Well, and I was watching the Shasta Recall group and seeing what they were doing and watching them, and I really liked the work that they're doing. Hundreds of people, grassroots effort, and I really thought, they're doing the right thing and they're taking part and they're not sitting back. And I really thought at the beginning that the Red, White, and Blueprint, by doing the docuseries, I thought, what's the value in that? And boy, was I mistaken. By being able to see and show the public what's happening, because they're not getting this information any other way. Mm-hmm. And it just shows how powerful the information is and how hungry people are for it and how many other like-minded people that are out there. It's amazing. I can't go anywhere without somebody saying, hey, I saw you in that series or that series. And it's really affecting a lot of people, and it's given them some hope. And so I underestimated the power that a series could have, showing what you can do in your own county.
Sure,
And
it's pretty
and
amazing.
Informing the electorate again. The electorate has the power.
Yep.
Every individual in this county, you're not powerless. You know,
Well, I don't even
here's
think
the
we would
illustration of it. You know,
thought it would take off like it has. I mean,
Yeah.
I heard from a guy last night said friends of his in Texas are all fired up trying to emulate what we're doing.
They are. It's gotten a lot of traction. I think it's gotten a lot of traction because it's sincere and people can see our transparency. They can see what we're doing. They can see that what we're doing is a noble cause, and that all we're trying to do is to return our county into control into the hands of the people, and that's not a bad thing. That's something that back in the day, Democrats and Republicans and independents could all gather around saying that's a good thing we can all unite on. But for some reason now we haven't politicized this movement. They've politicized the movement.
And for an elected official like myself, I just want to do a term or two, and then I want to go back to what I was doing before. But I see a great opportunity here because I see people coming up and taking an interest like I have not seen before. And I think that is a direct result of the blueprint.
Yeah. And it's also a result of the other side, the opposition, I call them, overplaying their hand. I mean, they've pushed the needle so far to the left, to where we're going to end up in a Maoist regime if we keep going that way.
Well, if you ever want to start something, make the public mad, which this all started back the March before. And sitting out in front of the admin building telling us that we can't come in. And then they're making rules and deals inside, not having a public meeting, going on month after month after month, and then telling us we could call in on the phone maybe, and then we could come in one at a time, and it just got people really mad, and and now they have formed. I've never seen so many groups merge together. And they're from all sides of different issues, but when you're not going to be allowed to even be listened to by your elected officials, you have a problem.
I'm still mad.
And
it was really
we
disappointing.
all want things to get better. We appreciate that things are getting seemingly better. But what he just said, I don't want people to forget and stop being mad about what happened, because it's going to happen again. We're not fighting. What we're doing here is not because of what happened last year. It's because of what's going to happen in years to come.
Correct.
If we don't do this.
Yeah, they're already talking about,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What counties can do learning from the blueprint?
Yeah.
It's a pretty broad question you want me to
Well, I think you band people together. It's one of the first
follow
things.
along,
move
be engaged. You have to be engaged with what we're doing. We're going a million miles an hour. It's hard for us to reach out to you. So reach out to us on social media, reach out to us via email, get on our website. We do pay attention to our messages. It might not be as quick as you'd like due to the volume that we're receiving, but we promise we will get back to you. But stay engaged, stay informed, and come along for the win, because we really feel like we are on a winning path right now. Less than 12 hours from now, we will be getting together here in Redding, California, and we're going to start this process in a very real way, in a way where we're going to get these signatures and we're going to recall these supervisors, and that's going to be epic. So stay tuned, watch what we're doing, watch the episodes. There's a lot of information on there, and sometimes you have to watch them 2 or 3 times to get all the info, because they're pretty rich with information.
And it's not easy. Nobody should think this is easy. What the work that the people have put into this, man. You look at Alyssa and Melissa and Catherine. I mean, they have
logistical
worked it
effort
like a
is
job. I mean, it's a lot of work. So don't think you're just going to show up to a couple board meetings and.
No, this thing has deep roots. It's like when you see this little baby tree or baby plant or something like that. What you don't realize is the massive amount of roots that it takes to support that. And what you're seeing right now is just really, not to be cliche, but it's the tip of the iceberg. This thing's been being built over the course of the last 18 months. And when I say 18 months, I mean all of 18 months, every second, every minute of that 18 months.
What's interesting this time around serving on the board compared to the city, years ago was, through social media, they can get people connected on certain issues and ideas. And, that was lacking for me, 10 and 15 years ago. And today, that communication and getting people together
in real time
is really key. And I feel sorry for the older generation that's not terribly, computer literate, because that's really a very powerful thing today that we have that we didn't have 15 years ago. and it's gotten all these different people together to act and to be able to accomplish something. And I think it's going to change everything.
The landscape of politics, really.
It's going to change everything.
You know, I mean, think about it. You're right. I mean, 20 years ago, I would have had to call his house, wait till he got home, maybe got a message from one of his kids or something. Then he'd get the message, and he'd call you, and it'd be the same thing. So it was a 4-day process to get 4 people together.
Look at what Ian Smart and Jesse Land did with that stake in NorCal.
Yeah.
They had 4,000 people in like 72 hours.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's all right here.
Yeah.
You know, what we put out right here literally goes global in a nanosecond.
I threatened to throw my phone away many times, but I'm glad I kept it.
I've had out the window like this.
Good action happening.
Yeah.
That's right. Good
All right.
action.
Well, thank you guys for the calls, and thank you, Supervisor
Patrick.
Jones,
Thanks for coming, Patrick.
being here, and we
Yeah.
appreciate you and everything you're doing to fight alongside with us.
Well, Barney Miller was on tonight, so it wasn't a big deal.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Only guys our age know who Barney Miller is.
Yeah, I had no idea what you're talking about.